I was an English major in college, and students of literature know that there are certain qualities that make great writing. And one of the marks of truly great stories is that you can return to them over and over again, and they still speak something new.
That's true of great literature. It's also true of great art. It's true of great music. We can come back to these things time and time again for their enduring greatness. And it's like the more you look at it, the more you see.
And it's definitely true of one of Jesus' most famous parables, the parable of the prodigal son.
When we look at this story, we are so familiar with it. Many of us know this by heart. It's the story of a father who has two sons, and the younger son wants his father's wealth without the father. So he goes and asks for his inheritance early, and then squanders it in reckless living, ends up at rock bottom, and humbly comes home, where he receives the welcome of his father. Now, the older brother in the story is scathing over this abundant welcome of the younger brother. Now, one of the dangers with such a familiar story in Scripture is that we think we've mastered this story instead of letting this story master us. That's one of the problems with religion in general. It's tempting for us to become experts rather than remaining learners.
And experts say, oh yeah, I already know this story, I got that one. But to follow Jesus is to remain a learner, to begin each day as a beginner. And when you begin as a beginner every day, you say, Jesus, teach me about this day. Teach me to love today. Teach me to hope today, because I've never lived this day before.
Now, last week we looked at the younger son, the rebel who ran away from home and was welcomed back home, with his father running out to meet him, throwing this big party for him. But today we're turning to the older son in the story, the one who stayed home, who followed all the rules, who didn't do anything wrong, and yet still got lost. The older son refuses to celebrate. He doesn't even want to come into the feast. He's furious. In his protest, he stays outside of the party, and he humiliates his father by refusing to enter this feast of salvation. The older son is lost, not in rebellion, but in religion.
And so the father goes out to his oldest son, only to be snapped at. The older son says to him, look, you, like a child dishonoring his parent in front of the whole community. And he gives this complaint, I've slaved for you all these years. I've never disobeyed. And never once have you given me even a little goat, when instead this son of yours comes home and you kill the fattened calf. We see he is keeping score. He's got this spreadsheet in his head. I do this, I get that. I've done these things, now I've earned it. What's my reward?
The younger son's rebellion was obvious. He wanted the father's things, not the father. But the older son is actually the same. He also wants his father's things and not his father himself. The difference is he's trying to get it through doing everything right, through his moral performance, by being the good son. Jesus is showing how both of these sons are lost, one in rebellion, one in religion.
Yeah, and even though they're both lost, the father goes out to get both. First he runs to the younger son, and then here he leaves the party, goes out to the older son, and pleads with him to come in. And that is grace. A father who will not leave either child out lost, but goes after them.
Now here's the crazy twist at the end. Jesus doesn't tell us how the older brother responds. The story just ends, and we wonder, does the older son come into the feast of salvation or not? Jesus just doesn't say. And it opens us up to deeper questions, like what do we think this older son will do?
Yeah, so for those people listening to Jesus right there, they were left with that cliffhanger. What's going to happen? And we know from Luke 15, verses 1 and 2, that there were two groups there. There were the tax collectors, sinners, and then off to the side were the Pharisees, and they were muttering. And muttering, Jesus is accepting these sinners and even eats with them. So the real audience for this story were those Pharisees, the religious insiders. And perhaps we can say they are the elder brothers of that day, and Jesus is also calling out the elder brother parts of us today.
Now, elder brother lostness is particularly dangerous because elder brothers don't usually think they're even lost. Like, if you don't know you're sick, you're not going to go to the doctor. The thing about self-righteousness and religion is that it can be inside of us and we don't even recognize it's there. We think we're doing fine, better than fine. Like, people should emulate us, as a matter of fact. Over time, obedience becomes less about loving the Father, more about trying to secure the Father's things. It's like a self-salvation plan. We might even find ourselves saying and praying at times, like, God, if you just do this for me, then I'll follow you in this way. we can try to squeeze God to get things through our good behavior. And that is actually not the way of Jesus. So let's just pause for a moment today and resist the temptation to turn this story into something somebody else needs to hear, like somebody more self-righteous than me, and pause and think, do I have any of this elder brother spirit in me? Am I convinced I'm always right? Do I scrutinize others while ignoring my own faults? Like, do I have pick the speck out of his eye while I have a log in my own?
Or do I take offense when someone disagrees with me? Or do I secretly try to prove I'm better, holier, more informed? Or do I think that my good life should be earning me God's blessings? That, my friends, is elder brother lostness.
Here's the hope, though. Jesus doesn't just save the rebellious younger brothers in the world. He saves religious older brothers, too. Jesus emphasized how the father left the party to go out and plead with his son to come into this celebration. Think about that. This is a God. This father is the God figure in the story. This is a God who leaves the party for you and I.
And when both sons recognize that they're lost, then both can be found. And that begins the transformation. Receiving God's grace for our rebellion and receiving God's grace for our goodness. And that's what creates a whole new kind of community where everyone has overcome something to be at the party, who all know they were deeply lost and infinitely loved.
When you gather these people together around this table hosted by this good father, it's a community not built on pride or performance, but built on grace. It's a community where our primary identity is not our politics, it's not our morality, it's not our accomplishments. It's this: I was lost, now I'm found. This is who I am. I'm deeply lost, infinitely loved, forever found. That's the God who leaves the party pursuing the ones he loves, and that's the kind of community he forms.
And so, friends, today, what do you think? Did the elder brother come in, or did he stay outside? And what do you do? As you are facing this day and this week, you should know that God is a God who leaves the party to come after you, wherever you are at. So, trust in that God today. We'll see you next time.